Hi, I'm Will Studd and welcome to Cheese Slices. I'm here in Bra in the north of Italy, where every 2 years Slow Food hold the world's largest specialist cheese show. The theme of this year's show is shepherd's cheeses. But before we have a look at the show down there, let's have a look at a small community that make Pecorino in Tuscany, one of the world's oldest shepherd's cheeses.
The name of Pecorino cheese comes from the word pecora, which is Italian for sheep. One of the most ancient of all cheeses still made today in Europe. These days, Pecorino is used to describe hundreds of different varieties of cheese made all over Italy from pure ewe's milk. The most famous of all is Pecorino Romano, which, as the name suggests, originated in the countryside of Latium, just outside Rome. These days, most Pecorino Romano is actually made in Sardinia, but thankfully still using original methods. Most of the other well-known varieties of Pecorino are currently made in their region of origin, including Pecorino Siciliano from Sicily and Pecorino Sardo from Sardinia. My favourite Pecorino comes from Tuscany and is known as Pecorino Toscano. Our story begins at a very unusual cooperative dairy, which is tucked away in a beautiful valley not far from Florence.
We started 25 years ago, and we started in social activities around the church.
Il Forteto, which means strong forest, was established in 1977 by a group of idealistic students who shared the dream of living in this lovely, unspoilt countryside.
We like this way of life all together, take a dinner together, spend the time for work, for everything, all together. We every day from the beginning eat at lunch and dinner all together. At the beginning we was 20-25 young friends, and there was the moment where we found the idea, when we discuss what doing this, the idea for live all together. Now we are 100 people, the 25 families that are in Forteto.
What made this group even more unusual was a social commitment to include foster children with special needs in their plan.
It's a mini society where people and child with problems of disease can found with a mini society found satisfaction to other child, to other adults. It's impossible, for example, to work with Down syndrome people, with young orphans with disease, with autistic child, without help in a normal family in 2 persons, without help of some uncles, some other peoples, and in the country, I think everywhere, not only Italy.
Nowadays, their dream has been realised. The families work together to produce a wide variety of natural produce, but the most important is cheese, particularly Pecorino Toscano.
Wow, look at this place, it's huge. Little cold? Explain to me a little bit about the atmosphere in here.
The old caves maintain for all the year temperature about 10, 11 degrees Celsius, and we want the same atmosphere, the same air, the same temperature, the same humidity. We have also our system of ventilation.
Very
all
clever.
The floor
Very clever.
is the same small wind, very.
High humidity and low circulation.
Very small circulation of air.
And you've got lots and lots of cheeses in here.
Yeah.
This one here, this looks really wonderful. Which one's this one?
This is, we call it the Stravecchio. Is old Pecorino, maintains for 8 months of seasoning.
Yes.
And outside, we treat with olive oil during the seasoning. we found we maintain the old way of maintaining cheese, Pecorino, because in Tuscany we have a lot of production in spring, and we need to maintain for all the year cheeses.
In addition to Pecorino, the co-op make a range of other cheese styles. These include fresh cow's milk mozzarella, which is carefully manipulated in an entirely automated process. There are half a dozen huge storerooms that make it possible to mature cheese all year round. All in all, this is an incredibly efficient operation.
We maintain the old
Back in
way.
our artificial cave, Stefano was halfway through the Pecorino tour.
And tomato.
He was keen to show me more of the natural preservation techniques used at the co-op.
From the past, use for maintain cheese outside in the skin, use natural products, olive oil as this, or tomato, or carbon, or ashes.
Ash. That's a good idea, Ash. And this one here.
This is another, the same cheeses, but very old.
Oh, yeah.
A special client has to maintain more to arrive to 1 year. And because mold is not the problem about cheese. It's good way for seasoning. Is the cheese is as a baby, and you need to work together to you wash, you turn, you have a lot of attention.
What about these
this
over
is
here?
4 months seasoned Pecorino. We stamp with fire the certification that is good size, without broke, without imperfection. Worker selected all Pecorino and write how many are not okay. For example, this lot we have 7 form not okay. We take out and we have a special selection. 3 type: over seasoned Pecorino, old Pecorino stagionato, 4 months, and the fresh one is this.
Oh, okay, over here, yes.
1 month old for use fresh with green beans, with appetizer. Also, during the year for maintain, we have mostly we produce seasoned Pecorino.
Seasoned, matured.
Yes.
Okay.
This is the 3 type of DOP Pecorino Toscano.
The composition of ewe's milk is much richer in milk solids than either cow's or goat's milk, which means it takes a lot less milk to make cheese. Unfortunately, ewes produce only a tiny amount of milk compared to other dairy animals, and so the milking process is very labour-intensive and expensive.
If you are breeders, you immediately have milk, make cheese, and found the money for start. And also, when we discover the life of shepherds, every day is very difficult, sometimes rain, sometimes sunny. They do in good way breeding of shepherds, breeding of sheep, and needs help to find a better way of life.
From its humble beginnings, Il Forteto has now become a leading producer of Pecorino Toscano. The defining characteristics of all the Pecorino made in Tuscany, compared to those from further south, is their smaller size and rich, concentrated caramel flavour and lack of salty bite. However, cheeses that bear the name Pecorino Toscano which is officially protected by the government, are only ripened with a natural rind, smeared with a little olive oil. Tuscany is famous for its regional cuisine, and I visited a villa high in the hills for a dish of walnut gnocchi made using Pecorino Toscano. Luigi begins by rolling crushed walnuts, flour, grated pecorino, salt, nutmeg and 1 whole egg into a soft dough. Once the dough has reached the right consistency, it is rolled into small bite-sized pieces. Luigi adds a bit of Italian style by using a fork to shape the dough. Once enough gnocchi is rolled, they're placed in boiling salty water until they cook through and rise to the surface. To make the sauce, butter is heated in a pan, then milk, rosemary and grated pecorino. This mixture is brought to the boil and a dash more milk is poured in. To present his masterpiece, Luigi creates a pecorino bowl. This is simply a matter of melting grated cheese on a tray and then placing it over a dish and pushing the sides in. A splash of olive oil is added to the sauce and the gnocchi is gently mixed in until thoroughly coated. The finished gnocchi is presented in the mould, and like all things Italian, the final result is full of style and flavour. Walnut and pecorino gnocchi a la Luigi.
One of the simplest ways of using pecorino is in a sauce called pesto. The other main ingredient is basil. The term itself originally comes from Genoa and means pounded, and once it would have been made in a pestle and mortar, but today I'm going to use a blender because it's a lot easier. The first ingredients I place in the blender are garlic and coarse sea salt. To this I add extra virgin olive oil and slowly throw in some freshly picked basil leaves. When the basil is well blended, I add roasted pine nuts and a splash more olive oil. And then the secret ingredient, a mixture of Pecorino Romano and Pecorino Toscano. I grate equal quantities of these and slowly add them to the mix. The final paste is perfect with pasta or gnocchi, or thinly spread on fresh, crusty bread. It's pecorino heaven.
What I love about it is you're right in the middle of the town. It's a great, beautiful Italian town. You're not stuck in some sort of exhibition hall or some sort of place where there's absolutely no atmosphere. You're in a place with an abundance of atmosphere, and it's a lot of fun.
Welcome to the beautiful town of Bra, the home of the slow food movement and an extraordinary festival dedicated to traditional cheese. This event is held every 2 years, and visitors from all over the world converge on the town for a weekend to indulge in their passion for cheese. Visitors include artisan and farmhouse cheesemakers, wholesalers, retailers, affineurs, and of course thousands of cheese lovers who want nothing more than to nibble on good cheese. But what exactly is slow food?
In a nutshell, slow food is about making the public much more aware of the fact that we have traditional foods, about the fact that we shouldn't be looking too much for convenience and lack of flavour. We should be pursuing flavour and looking at food as an important part of our lives rather than as a sideline to our lives.
Foods has made a huge difference to cheeses in general just by having this fair, that each year it grows bigger and bigger, more people turn up for it. And it's just raised the profile from something that was just rather sort of nice and mundane, and maybe there were a few good ones, for people to realise that there are thousands of different cheeses available from Britain, New Zealand, America, and of course Italy, which just show the quality that's available, the diversity and the uniqueness of all cheeses.
The theme of this year's show is the preservation and protection of shepherd's cheeses.
The shepherds are the people part of making cheese. The shepherds are what makes cheese happen. And the shepherds are as diverse as the cheeses they produce. And so there's lots of different ways that shepherds act and to form different cheeses. We all know that milk can take many different forms. And what is a big decider on how the milk is transformed, that is how it's made into cheese, is what type of techniques are used. And shepherds are the conservators of that, they're the curators of that knowledge. They're the ones with the memory who know how to produce all these different cheeses.
There is a special area dedicated to rare and endangered cheeses, which is called the International Presidia. I asked Anya to explain the importance of these cheeses.
Well, they're all at risk, which means they're not going to be produced for very much longer if nobody does anything, right? They're all very representative of different areas, so they'll be very typical. We'll have a local goat breed or a local sheep breed or a particular style of production that relies on a local ingredient. So, for example, in Naples, we have the mozzarella made in mirtillo, which is myrtle leaves. So we have a mozzarella packed in myrtle leaves, which is a traditional way of packing the cheese, but also gives it a very special flavor. And myrtle is local to that area. So often they involve local ingredients as well. And they're also really special, culturally important cheeses. We like to take the cheese that everyone from that area, from that town says, this is our cheese and this is a wonderful cheese. So we really try to find the one that's very special and representative also from a cultural point of view.
And how important is raw milk in all that?
It's fundamental. That's one of the tenets of the Presidia project, that all the cheeses that we use are raw milk. Not because we say that pasteurized cheese milks are bad, but the raw milk cheeses are something that consumers need to understand more about. They need to realize how important, not just that the milk is raw, but that if you're making raw milk cheese, you usually have more artisan style of production, you usually have more careful cheese-making traditions, and you have cheesemakers that are more attentive to quality. So raw milk brings with it a whole series of good benefits in terms of quality.
There is no doubt that the world is in danger of losing many of its traditional and artisan cheesemakers and the way of life they represent.
This is the most important event in Europe, and it really is bringing home to people in Italy and of course throughout Europe just how important it is to think about food, to think about our food tradition and to celebrate it and thereby to preserve it.
Tell us why you've come from Ireland to this show in Italy.
Because we just love slow food and what it's about, and the people you meet here, the network through slow food. We have sourced a lot of our most wonderful products, Italian products, and also Spanish and some French and some Belgian. So it's just really nice to bring the cheeses. They go down really well. People love them, appreciate them, and the cheesemakers come as well. So it's really good to have them here with you, to introduce them. And it's just great, wonderful people, wonderful place, beautiful.
In European countries, it has become increasingly important to preserve the heritage of traditional cheeses before they become extinct. Whilst in the industrialised economies of the New World, there is a real danger that a sustainable heritage will never be allowed to develop.
Just explain to me a little about why your cheese is so different to the industrial mass-produced block.
Well, we're a farm-based cheddar maker, but more than that, we're still making cheese in the traditional way in cloth-wrapped truckles. They're cylindrical cheeses. Also, we make the cheese by hand, so in the vats we physically turn the curd, which is the cheddaring process, which of course has been bypassed in industrialised production.
And all the milk comes from the farm?
We do occasionally buy milk in from neighbouring farms, yes. At the moment, it's entirely from our own farm milk.
And you'd be the last traditional cheddar maker in Devon?
Yes, indeed, that is the case. There are about, 4 or 5 in Somerset, 1 in Dorset, and us in Devon.
There's a huge number of different countries represented here. I mean, predominantly Italian. There's a lot of Italian stands, obviously, because we're in Italy. There's an American stand, there's cheese from Ireland, there's cheese from Poland, there's cheese from area of Russia. It's attracting, last time I was here 2 years ago, it was attracting sort of predominantly Italian producers, but I think people like me who were here last year just to visit thought, well, I want to be there too. So this year there's far more international presence.
This morning when I arrived in the show, I found some schools are learning about cheese, the production of cheese. They are testing why not tomorrow they became the new breeders, the new cheesemaker, the new why not?
So it's sort of like the Church of Cheese.
Yes, yes.
Without the support of passionate consumers and organisations like Slow Food and the growing organic movement, many of the traditions and skills which produce the wonderful variety of cheeses in the world today may disappear, denying future generations the opportunity of a real choice.